with you with a notebook and a pen and start noting down some important points. We are systematically studying. Some things, when missed out, may take a lot of time to just realize the connections. So my request to all of you, I understand all of you are very wonderfully engaged in services. But since we are already giving time, make the most out of it. Have the book and a pen, the Bhagavadgita book itself, because we will be reading shlokas also. Sometimes I will explain some connections from different acharyas, Srila Prabhupada's purports, systematically analyzing that and all like that. So it's better if you can keep also the video on as much as possible. So I won't be saying this again, just because it's the beginning of our unit, I'm saying it. So today we will enter the what is called as introduction. Srila Prabhupada, before starting introduction, he mentioned the whole setting of Bhagavad Gita. If you see, there is something called as setting the scene. Do you see the book? Please have the book in front of you. Have the hard copy book in front of you. I will be showing something surely on the screen, but it's always good to have the grantha in hand. Please have the book. So there is something called setting the scene. Then there is a preface. Then there is introduction. So Prabhupada establishes what is this context of the scripture Bhagavad Gita, very famously known, the epic Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata scripture, there are 18 parvas. And very interesting number 18. 18 parvas. There was the most conclusive event called as Battle of Kurukshetra, which went for 18 days. And there was a most conclusive conversation of the Mahabharata, which is called as the message of Mahabharata, that's Bhagavad Gita, which has 18 chapters, 18, 18, 18. And there are some more significances of the word 18. Anyway, that's just a side point. So Mahabharata is a history. Very interesting. It is not some mythology. Often people say that this is some good instructional, what do you say, story. It's not really an event of history. It is just instructional purposes is made like that. No, it is not so. Mahabharata should be understood as a history. In that sense, Bhagavad Gita is also a history. It has really happened. Iti ha-asa. Iti means this. Ha-asa. Actually happened so. Iti ha-asa. That's the meaning of the word itihasa. Someone said something?
Prabhuji, there's some sound is coming. I think someone is not on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Who is good in handling mute things and all? I can make them co-host. Someone.
Now you are on.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. I can make another one more devotee as co-host. Okay. Sandhya Mataji.
Prabhuji, I have muted all. Minu Mataji, also mute yourself. Prabhuji, you
Yes,
can
Prabhuji.
continue.
Yeah. So the co-hosts can monitor this if someone accidentally unmute. Surely, if you want to speak, raise hand. I will give you the opportunity. You can always stop in the middle and raise a question. That's surely that. So Bhagavad Gita is a history. Mahabharata is a history. And Mahabharata, actually, it sets the scene for Bhagavad Gita, which is the central message of Mahabharata. And Prabhupada says this. So we all know that there were this great family of Kuru Vamsha, in which there were two brothers, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. And Dhritarashtra was born blind. Pandu, he died prematurely, means he died early. And Dhritarashtra was unofficially a caretaker of the throne. And in one sense, he assumed himself to be the king. Now, interestingly, Pandu, when he died, he still had children, very young, Pandavas, 5 of them. And they were cared by Dhritarashtra. along with the mother Kunti also. Yes. And yet Dhritarashtra, because he was attached to the kingdom, though it was unlawful, he desired that the kingdom should be transferred to his sons, that is Kauravas, who were 100 in number. And he, though he was caring for the Pandavas, there were also very intricate politics happening in that situation to somehow secretly kill Pandavas, to eliminate from the race for power. You see, this happens everywhere, especially in material world. Wherever there is power, there is also a lot of politics to take that power. Is it not? Wherever money and power is there, it happens. And this is the scene which is very interesting for people of this world, is it not? You know this. In Western history, there is something called Game of Thrones. In the other histories, there are these battle for powers among the emperor dynasties and all like that. It's very interesting because everyone in this world wants power and they want to know how they can get it the best. And here we can see Pandavas, they were very much treated with injustice. They were again and again plotted to be killed, but because of very careful protection of a great person called Vidura, inspired by the Supreme Lord Krishna. Vidura protected these Pandavas in many, many situations. There was also grandfather Bhishma, the teacher Drona, who were also very affectionate to Pandavas because Pandavas were very righteous. They were following dharma. They were having good qualities. Kauravas on the other side, especially led by Duryodhana, he was very arrogant, greedy, saying that he was not qualified for the throne, that everyone knew. But Dhritarashtra somehow had this aspiration to make Duryodhana as the king. Duryodhana envied the Pandavas, and Dhritarashtra could not say anything against his son because he was attached to his son. So Duryodhana is like an active villain in the story, and Dhritarashtra is a passive villain because he is indirectly supporting his son. And this attempts go so much so that when the Pandavas, they have grown and they in fact have their queen Draupadi at an event which is a gambling match. There was a very great event because they lost all their property, all their wealth, which was this Indraprastha and a lot of wealth they had got. In fact, they had to bet even their wife. And their wife, that is Draupadi, was insulted. She was disrobed. She was attempted to be disrobed until Lord Krishna came to help her. This is a very, very tragic event. In fact, the most deciding event of the Mahabharata. Because you see, even today also, if one can imagine such an event where a respectable lady, especially a queen of a royal family, someone like of that stature is insulted in an assembly. This is something even today also people will not imagine that to happen, right? So such an event happened in so many years before. And Lord Krishna, he very much condemns this action. All the Pandavas, though they were there, they could not take any action against because they were on a lopside in the sense they could not say against because of that match. They had lost everything in the match. So Pandavas somehow, Draupadi was saved from that insult by Lord Krishna's intervention. And Pandavas had to go on an exile for around 13 years and 1 year in incognito, Ajnata. And they come back and they request for their rightful claim because they are people of Kshatriya category. They had to rule. That's their nature, pravritti. So when they asked, then how did Duryodhana respond? He was so arrogant that he did not wanted to even part with few villages also. So hearing this, Pandavas, they tried to negotiate in so many ways, but Duryodhana was hell-bent on holding whole property himself. He was very envious of the wonderful qualities, the great abilities of Pandavas. So Krishna tried to make a truce, Shanti Sandhana, but Duryodhana could not come out of that selfish plot. So at the end, you see, God himself tries to make a truce. And this world is such that the jivas are given some independence, free will. And God doesn't force the jiva against the will of a jiva. So we can see here that how one makes his destiny by his actions. So Duryodhana, in future, this battle, it concludes with the whole destruction of Kuru dynasty. Why did that happen? Because of wrong actions of Kauravas. Pandavas, they come out victorious despite having so much, limitations in terms of their number of soldiers, in terms of the quality of soldiers on their side against the Drona, Bhishma, and such amazing warriors on Kuru's side. Still, they come out victorious. That's the central message of Mahabharata. How dharma alone triumphs. Dharma is victorious. And for that, Bhagavadgita is the central philosophy. So the battle has become inevitable. It could not be stopped, and the whole world was divided. It is told, Prabhupada explains, all the kings of the world, whole world, literally whole world, not just a small limited part of India, they all sided with either Pandavas or Kauravas. And it was a battle, a great world war it was. And it was just about to start. And the very capable Arjuna, he comes into a state of confusion in the very beginning of this battle for a specific reason, which will be explained in the very first chapter. So we will see that. So Prabhupada says some very important statements about Lord Krishna in this particular chapter, in this particular setting the scene. Lord Krishna very carefully protected Pandavas because they were very virtuous. Chandramouli Prabhu, can you read this? Now Lord Krishna was not an ordinary man.
Now Lord Krishna was not an ordinary man, but the Supreme Godhead himself, who had descended to earth and was playing the role of a prince in a contemporary dynasty. In this role, he was also the nephew of Pandu's wife Kunti, or Partha, the mother of the Pandavas. So both as a relative and as the eternal upholder of religion, Krishna favored the righteous sons of Pandu and protected them. Hare Krishna.
One of the names of Krishna is Pandava Paksha. His name itself is Pandava Paksha. People say God should be impartial. God is impartial that he has given the knowledge, he has given the free will to everyone. But the jivas who follow dharma, they have God in their side. They have Krishna on their side. So how can we say God is partial? So Prabhupada has explained here why Krishna favored. It's not just that Krishna is related to them because Yaduvanshis and Kuruvanshis are very close in their family lineage. No, not just that. At the end of this setting the scene, Prabhupada also tells, usually the Bhagavad Gita editions, they make this very important mistake. They take the Mahabharata as a mythology, and Krishna becomes an poetic device for presenting the idea, their ideas. Krishna becomes like a spokesperson for their philosophy. They don't want to hear what Krishna wants to say. They tell their words, but they say Krishna said it in Gita. So that is a very great, offense to the speaker or an author of a work. And Prabhupada says that, he's the goal and the substance of Bhagavad Gita. And when we read Bhagavad Gita, we will understand that. So this is the setting the scene, which is given in the very first part. So Prabhupada dedicates this Bhagavad Gita to a very important acharya in our translation, in our parampara, because he presented what is called as Govinda Bhashya on Vedanta Sutras. He also presented a very important commentary on Bhagavad-Gita called Gita Bhushana, on the basis of which Prabhupada has written all his purports. So Prabhupada's explanations of Bhagavad-Gita, which he wrote in English, most of them are English translations of Baladev Vidyabhushana's commentary. Okay, so we will go back to refer that also as original. So that would be the way. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was in India, much before he went to West, he started translating Bhagavad Gita. And because of some arrangements, and the Srila Prabhupada's biography called as Lilamrita, it mentions, he could not print it. He tried to translate Srimad Bhagavatam, and he printed at least the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he carried it to West. And when he went there, people asked for Bhagavad. Please refer some edition of Bhagavad Gita for us to read. But Prabhupada did not have his own edition. So when he tried to check for a very good translation of Bhagavad Gita, he could not find even one which is true to the work, which actually tells the exact message of Gita. So that's when he starts to translate himself. He says that there are more than 600 editions of Bhagavad Gita, but not even one of them truly tell or truly give the message of Bhagavad Gita. That's when Prabhupada titles his edition as Bhagavad Gita as it is. So he says this in preface. So we go to the next part of the point, that is preface. So he says this. Prabhupada says, when he was in West, he wrote Bhagavad Gita with detailed explanations. You see in Bhagavatam how he explains there is Sanskrit shloka, there is word-to-word meaning, there is translation, and there is elaborate explanation, purport. But in the very beginning, there was a publication called Macmillan in the West. They published the first Bhagavad Gita of Prabhupada. So when they published, it was not with the full explanation of Prabhupada. You may have seen this. Nowadays also you can get this. It's called Macmillan edition of Bhagavad Gita. The cover page is like this for that. And it has actually the English diacritic Sanskrit text and purport, translation and purport. It doesn't have word-to-word meaning. And there also the purports was much, compacted. Some of the meanings were a little different. So that's when Prabhupada was thinking of publishing Bhagavad Gita in full, what he had originally written. And that's when later Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust came with this full edition of Bhagavad Gita. So not earlier it was Macmillan printing, now it is BPT as publisher, Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust, and they presented fully what Prabhupada originally wrote. So Prabhupada says this whole history in the preface. So all this, I was not very happy with the minimized manuscript. So then I published it as it is. So thus, Chandramouli Prabhu, can you read this? Thus the present
attempt is to offer the original manuscript of this great book of knowledge with full parampara explanation in order to establish the Krishna consciousness movement more soundly and progressively.
See, very important. Why is Bhagavad Gita important for ISKCON? Very important question to understand. Because the basis of Krishna consciousness movement is on this work Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam too. So here we are discussing about Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada says it here, you see, in order to establish Krishna consciousness movement more soundly and progressively. Read the further part also, Prabhu, the highlighted part.
Sure. Our Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, historically authorized, natural and transcendental due to its being based on Bhagavad-Gita as it is.
If someone asks about Krishna consciousness movement, when we introduce them ISKCON or Krishna consciousness movement, what do we say? It is based on this timeless knowledge called Bhagavad Gita. So it is very important for us to understand Bhagavad Gita. The Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, it is historical, it is authorized or authentic, because it is based on this book Bhagavad Gita, which is historical, which is authentic, which is genuine. So one should introduce Krishna consciousness movement like this and understand the foundation very well. When we have very good understanding of the foundation, then we can progress and practice devotional service better. So Prabhupada says ahead that how actually people say that I am the founder of this movement, but actual founder or the father of this movement is Lord Krishna himself, because he spoke Bhagavad Gita. And if this knowledge is coming in parampara, and I received this knowledge, Prabhupada says that he received it from his guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. And this is a very important point to note, that any teacher of spiritual knowledge should always say what is the source of his knowledge. In today's world, there are so many people who say that we have some knowledge to give. But where is that knowledge coming from? They say that I sat in some samadhi in some holy place and I got some realization. I am now coming and giving. This is something very nice. I'll not name the people, but you all understand. So that's not the way we approach spirituality. Now, if we have to study a simple subject, we ask, can you give me a textbook? Can you give me some authentic author of this book work? Then how can spirituality be taken so cheaply that anyone and everyone can speak about it? Sometimes even an auto wala, sabji wala says about, ye hamare samajh ye hai, Bhagwan ye hai, wo hai. Everyone has an opinion. Okay, it could be your opinion, but what Gita says, you cannot say that's the Gita, right? So when we say that this is the message of Gita, we have to quote references. That is the way a truly knowledgeable person speaks. So Prabhupada, he doesn't take any personal credit. He doesn't say that this is something I have found it myself. No. He says this I have received from parampara, a chain of knowledge coming from God himself. Very, very important. And Prabhupada in fact goes on to say, if personally I have any credit in this matter, it is only that I have tried to present it without any adulteration. What does adulteration mean?
Manipulation of the words.
Say it again,
Manipulation and speculation.
Like, in general meaning of adulteration, like adulterated foods.
Mixing.
Mixing. Sometimes you mix some cheap thing with a costly thing, so that you make profits. That's not healthy.
Not original proposal.
Not original. Yeah, that's not healthy. That's not original. That's not beneficial, right? So Prabhupada says is without adulteration. Very important. Once Prabhupada was asked by one very scholar of theology or religion. You have that science to study. So he told Swamiji, your book Bhagavad Gita is like the book of Bhagavad Gita by Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya is a very famous acharya. He has written a bhashya on Gita. Very nice. Gita Artha Sangraha, Gita Bhashya. Very nice it's there. And it's very similar to that only. So what is so special about your book? Very interesting. Usually people will say, no, my book is special because I have added this. So Prabhupada told, thank you. Your words are compliments for my work. So Prabhupada was very proud to accept, yes, I am just repeating the acharyas. my previous Acharya students. He has made it more simple, easy to understand for today's audience, but the original message or explanation is Acharyas. So Ramanujacharya, he also wrote an explanation, which was later, in fact, taken very much by Baladev Vidya Bhushana, and which was also later translated by Prabhu. So in that sense, there is that connection. So many Acharyas have written about Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada goes on to, are we all together? Hare Krishna, am I going fast? Or? Okay, the
All
space.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Okay. So anytime you find it, huh? Okay, fine. Thank you. So any of you, anytime miss out on something or any questions, stop me. So Prabhupada goes on to say that actual purpose of our work, our edition of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Bhagavad Gita as it is to present the will of Krishna or mission of Krishna, which we will study. I'm not going to explain that part. There is something which Krishna has as a message, central message to give to people. And that's the conclusion of Gita. One should not play with that, you know. And that comes out at the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada mentions it very nicely. Sometimes the so-called people, Prabhupada mentions it here. Chandramouli Prabhu, read this.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers, and swamis, without perfect knowledge of Krishna, try to banish or kill Krishna when writing a commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Such unauthorized commentary upon Bhagavad Gita is known as Mayavada Bhashya, and Lord Chaitanya has warned us about this unauthorized man. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. The result of such blunder will be that the misguided student of Bhagavad Gita will certainly be bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance and will not be able to go back to home, back to Godhead.
So many scholars, sometimes you will see some great freedom fighters, to the extent some of them are so great politicians, someone who was a former president. They also have given their explanations on Gita. Very famous, actually. There is no problem as long as they don't play with the central message of Gita. But when they start saying, "Oh, Krishna is not actually a historical personality; he is some imaginative personality, mythical person. Actual message of Gita is to understand that how we can also become God." This is all playing with the central message, and Prabhupada is very much angry on that. When you love Krishna and someone says offensive on Krishna, it's very natural for a devotee to protect the Krishna's words. Actually, Krishna's words are to be heard from devotee of Krishna. It's not to be heard from anyone who is not even having a belief on the existence of Krishna. So Prabhupada says this many times ahead. We will see them in the purport. So Prabhupada also points out here to be safeguarding against what is called Mayavada Bhashya, where people don't truly understand Krishna's transcendental position, and they, what do you say? How do you say that? They manipulate the message, central message. So Prabhupada says here, our only purpose is to present this Bhagavad Gita as it is in order to help a conditioned student to understand the same purpose for which Krishna descended to this world once in a day of Brahma, that is 8,600,000,000 years ago. So Prabhupada is telling the purpose of presenting Bhagavad Gita. Very interestingly, this particular paragraph tells about what is the central message. What is it that Prabhupada is presenting through his explanations on Bhagavad Gita. So one should always explain Bhagavad Gita with reference to Krishna, the personality Krishna. Sometimes there are societies called Gita Society and all. Prabhupada also was invited for a program, Gita Society. I think it was somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, if I'm not wrong. Gita Andolan. And there when he went, he was very angry because they told themselves as Gita, society, they did not have even photo of Krishna. So Prabhupada was so angry. You are telling that Bhagavadgita, this, that, and all. Can't you give a little respect to someone who gave this knowledge to the world, Krishna? So great offense. So you want to take the words of Krishna, but not accept the position of Krishna. So that's the point which is Prabhupada making here. Such understanding of Gita, which is truly according to the parampara, only will welfare the human society. So Prabhupada goes on to say, what is that actual philosophy? Everyone should know that Krishna is great. And the position of jivas is to be servant of Krishna. Unless one serves Krishna, one cannot rise above what is called illusion and this material world. This knowledge is only called as the great science. And this will truly benefit the jiva. This is the central message. So he goes on to say, a living entity is happily the part and parcel of the Lord. He's an amsha. And his happy situation is to serve the Supreme Lord. One should not play with that. One cannot say that jiva is right now in this prakriti, but later when he attains what is called moksha, he becomes God. No, that's not true. His natural function, his eternal function is to render immediate service to the Lord. Immediate service. He wants to serve Lord, not like indirect way through Maya, which every jiva is doing now, in this material world. No, but to render direct, immediate service. And that will only make him happy. Sometimes Prabhupada gives this example of a fish taken out of water. Fish taken out of water, taken out of its natural situation, cannot be happy no matter how much a person provides the facility. Only and only when he gives him the natural position of that fish to the fish will that be happy. Right? So one has to go to the natural position of serving the Lord. And that's what Lord wants through this Bhagavad Gita. And he demands it for the benefit of the jiva. It's not that Krishna is, he is boasting his greatness. He is, asking everyone to serve him. Just see, he's so exploited, It's not like that. Actually, he's saying it for the benefit of the jiva. For our interest, he's saying. And Prabhupada says, to this central point, we are presenting Bhagavad Gita. At the end, this one last paragraph very interestingly brings out the mood of Prabhupada. Chandramauli Prabhu, read this, our Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Prabhu. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching the whole world this center point, and because we are not polluting the theme of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Anyone seriously interested in deriving benefit by studying the Bhagavad Gita must take help from the Krishna consciousness movement for a practical understanding of Bhagavad Gita under the direct guidance of the Lord. We hope, therefore, that people will derive the greatest benefit by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, as we have presented it here. And if even one man become a pure devotee of the Lord, we shall consider our attempt a success.
Just see how much Prabhupada wants to preserve that central message. He wants to keep that purpose. There are so many people telling about Gita, but this edition, Prabhupada says, is wanting to present what Krishna wanted. Once Prabhupada told this example. He says this in a lecture on Bhagavad Gita. There was a book written called as Aurangzeb by Shah Jahan. There was a book written about this Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, that whole dynasty of Mughals. Especially, it tells about, the book was titled as Shah Jahan, and it was written by a person, not Shah Jahan. It was written by a person, and that book very much told about the activities of Aurangzeb. It only told activities of Aurangzeb. But the book was titled as what? Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan was the father of Aurangzeb. Now someone went and asked to this person who has written this book, Shah Jahan, why did you title your book as Shah Jahan when the book wholly describes only about Aurangzeb? The Prabhupada tells in a lecture this thing. Then that person who is the author, he told, actually, my intent is to make readers understand when Shah Jahan was put in the prison and when Aurangzeb was doing all this, what was happening in the heart of Shah Jahan. This is what my intent is. And how will one understand this intent? Just by reading the book. Only when one hears from the author of the book. Is it not? What is the actual intent of the book should be heard from the author of the book. So that's the importance. We should hear from Krishna directly. We should hear from the parampara coming from Krishna, that is the true devotees of the Lord. Then we understand what is the purpose of any book, especially for Bhagavadgita. It is so. Okay. So this completes the preface. This also shows how much Prabhupada was. Before I say it, what qualities of Prabhupada do you notice from this preface? What qualities do you observe? Any?
Serving attitude, Prabhuji.
Serving attitude. Can you exactly say how?
Through the book of Bhagavadgita, he wants to give the knowledge, actually what Krishna has actually explained.
So he has that attitude of service, not for his own aggrandizement, to make himself famous. Very good. Any other quality, any of you?
He is blunt and fearless.
So say it again.
Blunt and fearless. He presents what is truth.
He presents what is truth. He's fearless. There are so many people who are saying something and he's the only one who is saying completely different. People will not respect. But he's fearless. Very good. Very good. Any other quality?
He wanted to glorify Krishna, Prabhu.
Wow.
Which many Bhagavad-gitas don't do.
Glorify Krishna. Yes, very good. Anything else? Any other quality of Prabhupada do you notice?
Prabhuji, he wanted to give mercy and access to Krishna.
Okay. Yes, true. He wanted everyone to understand Krishna and access Krishna.
He is very humble.
I say it again.
He is very humble.
How, Prabhu?
He giving the credit to others, how kind of saying from where I'm taking, he's accepting those things. So he's very humble in accepting things.
Very true. So he is very humble because he is giving the credits to his gurus, the parampara, to Lord Krishna. He doesn't claim that credit like today's so-called people of scholars of Gita. Any other quality? Any of you want to add?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji, please say again.
He is very much dedicated towards Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dedicated to Krishna, loyal to Krishna, faithful to Krishna. Very good. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Perseverance of Prabhupada. Do not get demotivated, even if you are able to, make one person a devotee. That itself is done. So do not think that nobody is.
You pointed it very nicely. So he is so convinced. He's saying even one person truly understands, then my whole mission is success. Can imagine so much effort is put. If you study Prabhupada's life now, Srila Prabhupada's appearance day is coming. We should all meditate on what all sacrifices he did to just publish these books. So even one person becomes a devotee, pure devotee, then his whole mission is success. Such a great statement, actually. So very good. And did we miss on any purpose, any quality? Any of you want to add as a last?
Krishna Prabhu, you managed to correct the Mayavada's commentaries and you just want to correct this.
He corrected the wrong understanding. Good. Thank you. I'm very happy to hear all of your wonderful understanding especially the qualities of Prabhupada. So whenever we read something, we understand what is the mood of that author, what is the quality which he emphasizes, what he wants from the readers. So this is very important to understand. Especially spiritual books like Bhagavadgita, Bhagavatam should not be read as material books, wherein we study, we write exam, we cram, and we leave the book aside, and we don't even turn to that book. Sometimes you give to your juniors in colleges, or some kids in your society, yeah, take it, or some anath ashrama or something. You give it off. That knowledge is no more useful for me. I don't want it. In fact, this Gita is to be studied again and again. You will see one of the very famous verses on glorification of Gita, which Prabhupada says, quoting Shankaracharya, a great Acharya in the Vedic tradition. He quotes from him, who is apparently from a Mayavada tradition. He says how Gita should be read daily. Just like we take bath daily, we should read Gita daily. Why? Because we take bath to clean ourselves. But when we take bath in the water of Bhagavad Gita, that's the words of Bhagavad Gita, what becomes clean? Our chitta becomes clean. Sakrit Gitam Bhasi Snanam Samsara Mala Nashanam. Samsara Mala Nashanam. So that's the glory. Anyway, it comes as the conclusion of introduction. So we would now like to take to the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. Before we go to the introduction, I want to say one very important concept on the structure of Bhagavad Gita, because that's important to understand before we go into introduction. So one of the acharyas by name Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he compares Bhagavad Gita to a jewel box. A jewel box like you have in your cupboards or whatever, jewel box where there is a jewel inside. There's a closet in the colors. Why like this? Interesting. The lid and the case which covers is very important. The precious thing is the jewel, the ring. But do we keep the ring just like that here and there? No. We preserve it, we carry it, and we protect it by this casing. Very important. And this is how the whole Bhagavad Gita is. Sometimes this example is also given like a sandwich. It's like a modern example. You have the important stuffing in the middle, and you have the coverings, or like that on the tops and bottom. So that's how Bhagavad Gita is also composed. There are these 3 sections of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is called Yoga Shastra. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishad. Have you heard this? Upanishadsu. They say this at the end of Parayana. Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Then ... it goes. So it is Yoga Shastra. Every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called traditionally as one yoga. Like you have Bhakti Yoga, you have Rajavidya, Rajaguhya Yoga, you have Purushottama Yoga. Just now Purushottama month happened. You might have recited Purushottama Yoga chapter, very auspicious on that month. So these are all yoga. Every chapter is named traditionally as a yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, like that it goes. We will see them when we come to the specifics. But broadly, if you see the 666 divisions of total 18 chapters, they are primarily these 3 categories. The middle category called Bhakti Yoga is like the jewel. Is like the jewel, the very core of Bhagavad Gita. At the same time, the other 2 parts, the first and the last, which are like the closet and the case, the that which preserve that central message. They lead you to that. So if you see, study Bhagavad-gita as shlokas, just shlokas, they lead you progressively to the central message, the central substance, that is bhakti. So that's how we should approach bhakti yoga. So karma yoga is actually what it is. It is explanation of how our karma can take one to bhakti. That's explained. From karma, how one can connect to Krishna, how karma leads to bhakti. That is karma yoga chapter sections. That is 1 to 6. That's what we are going to study. Jnana yoga is telling us how one's knowledge can lead to Krishna. That's the last 6 chapters. And bhakti yoga, it truly talks about what it means to connect to Krishna. Yoga means to connect. So connecting to Krishna through one's heart, which is what essentially bhakti is. That is told in the middle 6 chapters. That is the substance or the jewel, or you can say sometimes children have that cream biscuit. I remember that. So they take out everything and they just take that cream. They are so fond of that middle substance. So the middle substance is most important. At the same time, we should also understand the other 2 sections, because they are very important for our functioning in this world. And how that can be led to the central message is told in these 2 sections very nicely. So that will be a general overview. This is very, very general overview. We will see as we go to the very specifics. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
This will not be very new. It's surely you might have heard about it. Sometimes
Hare
it's
Krishna,
also
Prabhuji, a small
language.
doubt.
Yes.
Prabhuji, there is also Ashtanga yoga, right? Dhyana yoga. So that will be a part of which yoga, Prabhuji?
That will be part of karma yoga only, because karma yoga, when it is progressing towards bhakti, Ashtanga yoga also comes.
Okay.
Actually, Ashtanga yoga is broadly put under karma yoga.
Because that is more related to dhyana, right, Prabhuji?
Dhyana, yeah, truly dhyana, correct. But it is aiming for something of this world, that is siddhis and all. So that's why it's put under karma yoga. And if you see very analytically, the 6th chapter of Gita, which is Dhyana Yoga, is coming in the Karma Yoga section. So Karma Yoga also talks about Jnana. Karma Yoga talks also about yoga, Dhyana. But when we discuss Jnana Yoga in the last 6 chapters, there it's entirely dedicated on understanding the world, the Prakriti, the Gunas. There is a lot of about that. In that sense, we will see the last 6 chapters. Okay, so there could be the predominant section is like that, but if you see in every chapter, the conclusion is bhakti. Very interestingly, I will say this a little later, but anyway, you brought the point. I'm mentioning it here. The central message is also a conclusion of every chapter of Gita. The actual discussion of the central message comes in the middle 6 chapters, but nonetheless, every chapter concludes to that. Yeah, this is what is there. This is what. So it's actually so wonderful. Krishna spoke this. They say sometime it's for only 45 minutes. Krishna spoke spontaneously, and it was just like a song, Gita. But it is so systematic. One can understand the opulence of knowledge of Krishna. Like there are 6 opulences, predominant opulences, we say, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashasa, Shriya, Jnana, Vairagya, Yascha, Shanna, Bhagayitim, Gana. Bhagavan has these 6 opulences. Any of you know? Please say. Bhagavan has 6 opulences.
He's the most beautiful.
He's most beautiful. Very good.
Knowledgeable.
Intelligence.
Beauty, knowledge, and then?
And the
knowledge and intelligence only. Okay, he's very intelligent. He has great knowledge. Okay, anything more?
Wealth. Power.
Yeah, most renounced.
Sorry, wealth. After wealth, I did not hear. Say
Power,
again.
powerful.
Renounced, Prabhuji.
Or renunciation. Yes. One more.
Beauty.
Huh?
Beauty. Most
Beauty
beautiful.
हो गया. Beauty हो गया. That's done.
Fame, Prabhuji.
Fame. Yeah, fame. So yashasaha, Aishwarya, Samagra, Virya. That's the strength. Aishwarya Samagra se Virya se Yashasaha, Shriya, Jnana, Vairagya. Shanna, Bhaga itim Gana. So when we say someone as Bhagavan, sometimes Bhagavan is used for some very powerful person also. So that means he should have these Bhaga. Bhaga means opulences. So Bhagavadgita, it shows this wonderful opulence of knowledge. Jnana. Krishna spoke so wonderful wisdom. So whenever we talk about wisdom, like in this world, wise people are very famous and attractive. Is it not? Like Einstein, very intelligent person, say, or Chanakya, very intelligent person. Krishna was most intelligent. So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita is an example or a proof. There are many proofs for such knowledge or wisdom of Krishna. One of them is Gita. Okay. So now we want to enter studying introduction. Any comment or question? Are we all together? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes. Boliye.
You said about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I did not understand that point.
The Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the
He
acharyas,
gave
he gave that example or analogy of jewel box. Jewel box.
Okay.
That example which we spoke was from that acharya. Okay.
Okay. Understand.
So our Bhaktivedanta Book Trust has published the whole introduction to Bhagavad Gita as a separate book only. Though it is a part of the book Bhagavad Gita, but it is also published as a separate book, Introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Like you have another book called Rajavidya. Have you seen? Rajavidya. That's also one part of Bhagavad Gita. So like that introduction to Bhagavad, like Karma Yoga, that's also one book. Yeah, Karma Yoga. So introduction to Bhagavad Gita is also a separate book because it is so profound. It gives the entire philosophy of Gita. It just doesn't say something and leaves for reader to read the whole Gita. It tells the whole philosophy of Gita. It is so complete. Actually, Prabhupada gives a very detailed introduction of Bhagavad Gita. So, in the limited time and scope of Bhakti Shastri course, what we will do is we will study the broad sections of Bhagavad introduction. Okay, and I will title it the introduction sections, and I will show you, and I will tell some important points under it. But request each of you, please try to make an effort to read it line by line at a leisure time. Okay, so now we will enter the introduction. So Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning of introduction, he offers the pranamas to the Guru Parampara. See, in the introduction to any book, there is something called Mangalacharana. So Mangalacharana has three parts. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes this. It says first part as it means three parts, not like exact sequence I'm saying. First part is Vastu Nirdesha, means what is the topic of the book, that is told in the beginning. Vastu Nirdesha. Then it tells about what a person is going to achieve. Vastu Nirdesha. Then Adhikara. Adhikara or Ashirvad. It's called Ashirvad. What he is going to achieve from that. And lastly, it offers Namaskara. So these three are essentially the parts of introduction of any bona fide Vedic work. They will tell what is the topic of the book, who is qualified to read it, and what will one achieve. And thirdly, it offers pranamas. The author offers his respects to his Ishtadeva. You can appreciate this when you study Nectar of Devotion, because there these three parts come very visibly. So Prabhupada also, in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, first offers pranamas. He offers respects to the parampara. He puts all those shlokas and with the meanings, all the Goswamis' names he mentions. He offers pranamas to Krishna, Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani, all the Vaishnavas. And then he also mentions the Mahamantra, which is the great prayer, Mahamantra. And then he starts to tell about what is the topic of this book. Vastu Nirdesha. What is the central discussion of this book? When you have to tell about a book, you should say that, what this book talks about. So he says, Bhagavad Gita. Who would like to read? Some other devotee can take up the reading. We will take turns so that everyone gets opportunity. Who would like to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, done with Pranam.
Yeah. Prabhu, start reading. Bhagavad Gita is also known as, read this.
Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishad in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on Bhagavad Gita, and one many question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita available in English. But as far as I have seen, not only in America, but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative, because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is.
So, Prabhupada is telling one should basically go to the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. That's why he had to write another explanation. Though in the market there are so many books, Bhagavad Gita, so many spiritual organizations publish their edition of Bhagavad Gita. So why did Prabhupada do? He could have easily just said, yeah, there are so many books. Why someone will write again and again on the same work? But because the spirit is lost, he wants to write it again. So essentially, the introduction of Bhagavad Gita talks first about spirit of Gita. Okay, and then later, I'm just showing you all the sections in the before. Do not become confused. I just will show, and later we will go under each of them what all will come. Okay, the spirit of Gita is discussed. What is that spirit with which one should read Gita? Two important spirits are there. We will see them. And then, what is the purpose of Gita? Okay, what is that attitude with which a reader should read Gita? And what is the purpose of Gita? That's explained. The second part of the introduction says it. Then, any Vedic literature has something called Sambandha, Abhidheya. What comes next? You might be familiar with these words. Sambandha, Abhidheya, and any of you know? Prayojana. Sorry? Hare Krishna. So there are three terms called Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha is talking about the knowledge aspect of understanding. Like simple thing. I will give you a very simple example for it. Say suppose tomorrow is a festival. I want to cook a dish, a bhoga for Lord. Say suppose I want to cook what is that Shahi, some Hyderabadi famous sweet, na? Some Shahi, some Shahi Tukuda. Shahi Tukuda. That bread and that. So I want to cook that for Lord. Tomorrow is say Radhashtami. I want to cook it. So first of all, if you want to cook, what you should know? You should know the knowledge. Okay, how it is to be made. A recipe is right. A recipe or something. You should know how it is to be done. Then what is your goal? Your goal is to make it the best possible way and offer it to Srimati Radharani, on the festival. So you've got to know how to do. Now, very importantly, is this sufficient? Is this sufficient?
Ingredients, we need
Oh,
ingredients.
yes. Ingredients, okay. Anything else? What is called as operational knowledge is necessary.
Yes.
Only when you get into kitchen, arrange things. Okay, now I have to get a nice quality bread. How to make bread? That's an interesting knowledge to know. And then I have to fry it properly. And then I have to make some nice, sugar, whatever it is. I don't know the recipe. Sorry. So the point is, there is something which you know when you start doing it. That's application of knowledge. So there is something called knowledge or understanding, which one should know before even started doing it. Then one applies it. That's called process. And then by that process, you attain a goal. Knowledge, process, and goal. Technically called Sambandha, Abhidheya. Then what is it?
Prayojana.
Prayojana. So this is a very generic words. Actually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains these terms. If you see the whole Vedic literature, you can put under these three categories: Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Different Shastras, they have different Prayojana. If you go to Vedic scriptures, say Karmakanda scripture. Have you heard this word, Karmakanda? Hare Krishna. Karmakanda. What do you know? Any of you can say? What does Karmakanda mean?
Achieve something, you worship
The result of
something,
actions, Prabhuji.
get those things.
Okay, to achieve something, you worship someone.
Or Karma Kanda, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Karma Kanda is as per the scriptures, the Vedas is called the Karma Kanda.
As per scripture. So what is the prayojana for it, Prabhu?
To get some, to get whatever we are
Desire, you fulfill your desires.
desiring for.
What desires? Exact. Can you be specific?
Like
Somebody
goes for say,
good son or a good husband.
Material desires, Prabhuji.
Material desires. Correct. See, to this point, you should be specific. Okay. Sorry if I want all of you to understand specifically, to the point. That's why I may repeat sometimes. So, prayojana of a Karmakandi scripture is to attain material happiness. He wants to attain material happiness. And for that, he will follow Vedas. He may even have an understanding that, yeah, this body will get destroyed, but I continue to exist. I can continue as many eternally in this material world. Keep taking body after body. But what is the goal? Moksha. What is the goal? What's the goal?
Sense gratification, Prabhuji.
Sense gratification. For that, how Vedas can help me. So that it becomes Abhidheya. So Vedas following is Abhidheya. But what is the Prayojana? Material happiness. What is the Sambandha? I can continue living in this world eternally. I don't have any end. This body has an end, but as an Atma, I can keep taking bodies, be in this world, and keep trying for material happiness. See, this is Karma Kanda scripture I am talking about. So, Bhagavadgita, it has a Sambandha, it has a Prayojana, and there is something Abhidheya. This should be understood. And Prabhupada will present that in his introduction. Very systematic. All of you, did you get this concept? Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Any question on that? Well, that's very central to introduction.
So, Prabhuji, Sambandha, how we relating Sambandha to this?
Sambandha is a knowledge or understanding. Actually, it is telling about tattvas. Some preliminary knowledge one should have. Like I was telling, a recipe. You should know at least basic steps, a large understanding, broad understanding. One should have basic understanding. What is that conception with which one starts to do it? So Like we say, the Sambandha in Krishna consciousness is that we are eternally part and parcel of Lord Shri Krishna. And we can be truly happy when we connect with Krishna. Our relation should be established with Lord Shri Krishna. This is Sambandha Jnana. How do we do it? We practice what is called Bhakti Yoga. Like you studied Nectar of Instruction. It tells all that what all one should do. Is it not? It is actually an Abhidheya Shastra. It tells about the process. It tells you, Vacho Vegam, control your words. And it even tells you later how you should aim for spiritual world, especially in that also Vaikuntha, not even Vaikuntha, Goloka. What the mood of gopis is the highest. It tells, you remember that the 12 shlokas, the 11 shlokas, whatever. It tells that process, how one should associate with devotees, what one should avoid, what one should do. It's Abhidheya Shastra, what one should do. So when we apply that, that is Abhidheya. And Prayojana is what one attains. One attains love to Krishna. That's the Prayojana. We say, when we begin chanting, before that we say the 10 offenses recited. At the end we say that everyone who claims to be a Vaishnava must care. What do we say? Anyone please complete? Must carefully.
Must guard against these 10 offenses to attain desired success.
What is that?
Krishna Prem.
So what do we desire as success? What do we want to attain? That is Prayojana. What is that? Krishna Prema. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told everyone is eternally a servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. And he told Krishna Prema is the highest goal one Jiva can take, and one should aspire for it. And to attain it, one should practice devotional service. It's eternal, but it also helps you to elevate. One attains pure devotion. So is this clear? Sambandha, Avideya, and Prayojana. So now we will study that as part of introduction to Gita. Prabhupada will explain that. So next comes Sambandha. So I have mentioned it as a relationship here because here there are many aspects of tattvas as explained as a relationship. Someone is unmuted. Please help Hare Krishna. The other devotees, co-hosts can monitor. Yeah. So Sambandha comes. Then comes, there is another interesting aspect. As a sub-part of Sambandha only it's told, what's the nature of Vedic knowledge? Like something you studied in Ishopanishad introduction, you remember? Very nice, Prabhupada gave introduction to Ishopanishad also, about what are the Vedas telling about, that pramanas. You remember that pramana, as an inductive process, deductive process, all that. That also is presented by Prabhupada, the nature of Vedic knowledge and how Bhagavadgita is most perfect Vedic knowledge. And then that Abhidheya Prayojana is told. Yeah. So when we say Prayojana, then person becomes very eager. Yeah. I want to have that Shahi Tukda. I want to offer it. It's so nice, and when you show it, wow, it is so nice. How do we make it? Tell me now what I should do. Then a person becomes ready for Abhidheya. So then comes Abhidheya, methods or process, which one should take up. And then lastly, the glories of Gita is explained by Prabhupada as last part of introduction. Is it clear? So now we'll go to the first section, the spirit of Gita. The two spirits are explained. The spirit, as I mentioned, first is to at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord. At least theoretically. When we approach Bhagavad Gita, we should accept that, yeah, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavan. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, you don't hear Krishna Uvacha. Do we hear that? We just mentioned as Bhagavan Uvacha. Is it not? So, one should accept that Sri Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least theoretically, we may not fully have realized it because so many great teachers in the past have accepted, so many wise people across all traditions have accepted it. And even Gita also conclusively says that if we study Mahabharata, we can understand. If we see the history of Krishna's appearance and activities, one can understand it. So this first spirit is to accept Sri Krishna, the speaker of Gita, as the supreme personality of Godhead. Prabhu, you had a point, someone said.
No, Prabhuji, I was just asking, will you be sharing these slides after the class?
What I am doing, what I presented to the earlier group, I am refining, So I will surely share it, but I will not be able to share it in, in the beginning itself. So I'm making it at the end, I will share it. By request, all of you, that's why I was saying, you can make notes. It will be very, very good. See, there is a lot of guidebooks, study guides for Bhagavadgita. Very wonderful books. I will also suggest some of them very nicely, like Gita Subodhini, Surrender Unto Me. Many nice books are there. In fact, in ISKCON, you can understand Bhagavad Gita so wonderfully. So nice teachers of Bhagavad Gita are there. So surely, but when we are studying as a course, I'm trying to present from different guides, my different teachers. In fact, when I attended, I'll just show you. I have my notes like this. I have written a lot. So when we make notes, it becomes our. When there are so many guides, they are there. Unless and until we open that book, we will not benefit. But you have it when you study. That time itself, you make notes. That time you reflect on it. That becomes your, an asset for you, so that you Krishna nicely, you can contemplate about it, and later it will also help you for your service of preaching. Okay, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
So the spirit of Gita, the first spirit is the spirit of submission. Yeah, speaker of Gita, he is truly very superior. I have to submit myself to that speaker and hear from him submissively. This is what Arjuna did in the very beginning. You will see that in the second chapter. And the second spirit is try to practice devotional service. A spirit of devotion, very, very important. Establish oneself in relationship with Supreme Lord in one of the 5 mellows. Mellows means rasas. Prabhupada will explain that here. Okay, so now we will see how is this their introduction. Okay, I'm going to show you now the introduction, and you can mark it in the introduction itself. See, Prabhupada starts saying, who was reading just now? Read the highlighted part, the spirit.
Yeah, the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to your own or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions magician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is the speaker himself.
As the speaker himself. As its speaker tells, like that one should accept. So read a little ahead also, the speaker. Yeah. Read this, the speaker.
The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to any powerful person or any powerful demigod. And certainly here, Bhagavan designates Lord Shri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters like Shankacharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India.
Thank you. So often people make this mistake. They confuse, they mistake Krishna to be a human. Krishna himself will say this, avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashrita param bhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. In 9th chapter he will say this. Many places he will say this mistake you don't do, Arjuna. This is a very great mistake. To think me to be a human, manushim tanumashrita, that will be a defeat for a jiva. Krishna is not just an extraordinary personality, extraordinary in the sense, you see in this world there are some really powerful people, extraordinarily gifted people. They can remember a lot. They can have great skills, like that. No, he's not a mundane person. He's not an extreme, extraordinary person, but he is supreme person. So Duryodhana and others, they were thinking, okay, Krishna is, he has great powers. He showed Virat, wow, but he's a Mayavi. They did not accept him to be Supreme God. Though they saw Krishna, they did not have this first spirit, that is spirit of submission. Okay, so Prabhupada tells that even the great acharyas, someone like even a Mayavadi Sampradaya person, the great teacher Shankaracharya, was actually a devotee, but he also accepts Krishna's. You know that famous shloka, Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. See, he's saying, who is that Krishna? Vasudeva Sutta, Devaki Paramananda. Like that, he's introducing, and he's that Jagat Guru. So Krishna, we can see Krishna becoming a Jagat Guru. He's truly a teacher for the whole world through Bhagavadgita. So Prabhupada quotes, this actually comes in the 4th chapter, establishing Krishna as supreme position. And Prabhupada quotes that. I will not go details of it. Then Prabhupada, he also tells why did Arjuna was chosen? Why was Arjuna chosen as a recipient of Gita? Because he had another spirit. He had surely the spirit of submission, but there was one another interesting spirit. Prabhu, read this. He tells Arjuna that he is, tell this.
He tells Arjuna that he is relating this supreme secret to him because Arjuna is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is specially meant for the devotee of the Lord.
This is the second.
There are 3 classes of transcendentalists, namely the
Jnani,
namely the Jnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta.
Continue.
Or the impersonalist.
Meditator.
The meditator and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjuna, especially because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his friend. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person.
1 minute. So we will not read entirely. I will show a certain section because otherwise it will take a long time. So essential point is that Arjuna is a devotee and he is the authority in understanding Gita. It was spoken to him and he truly understood Gita. So Prabhupada later says also it's best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjuna's. So one should actually try to establish oneself in a relationship with Krishna. So these 5 relationships or rasas are explained. What are they? A devotee in a passive state, which is called Shanta rasa. A devotee in an active state. What is this? Any of you? You may have known this. Huh? What is this active state mean? After
Dasya
Shanta
rasa.
rasa, what comes? Dasya rasa. A friend.
Dasya.
Friend. What is this rasa?
Sakya rasa, Prabhu.
Sakya rasa.
Then there is
Sakya rasa.
Vatsalya, parent.
Vatsalya.
Then there is conjugal lover as Madhurya. So, by these rasas, one should establish a relationship with Krishna. Arjuna was in which rasa, Prabhu? Any of you?
Sakya rasa.
Sakya rasa.
Yeah, he was a friend. No, Prabhupada told no before. He was having a direct relationship like that. So this is very important to know that one should be in a relationship with Krishna. One should know the person Krishna. Then one can understand his words the best. Is it not like suppose, suppose, a son can understand his father's words because he knows his father's nature, his father, what does he, as a person, what he emphasizes, what he actually means, he knows it. So Arjuna was in relationship with Lord as friend, Sakya rasa. That's why he was chosen as the recipient of this knowledge. So Prabhupada basically, he points this out in this whole next section which is coming, which is explaining these two spirits. The first spirit was what? Any of you remember? What was the first spirit? The two spirits of Gita.
Submissive.
Submissive.
Right.
What does it mean, Prabhu? Submissive spirit mean?
We should theoretically accept at least Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord.
Very good, very good. And the second spirit is?
Devotional
We
spirit.
need to establish a relationship with Krishna.
That's the spirit of devotion, you see. Prabhupada says this, unless one reads the Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Gita because it's a great so it should not happen that one is having the bottle of honey, but he's not able to open the bottle and he's licking it from outside. He wants to taste, but he cannot access that honey in the bottle. So these two spirits are the first explanation. Now, what was the second topic after this? You all know, na? I have already shown.
Prabhuji, can you explain passive and active again?
Can you explain passive active? So passive means Shanta rasa. Why is it called passive? Because a person in Shanta rasa, he is in what is called an awe, 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 in great awe or reverence. Wow, God is so great. My God, he's witnessing the glories of the Lord. And he is passive because he is not engaged in service. Our Lord is so great. He is only making everything happen. What can I do service? He just appreciates. He has that great appreciation for God. That is passive relationship. Active relationship.
Any example of passive?
Oh yeah, in actually, if you see in the passive state of Shanta, there are some entities in the spiritual world who are appreciating the Supreme Lord, especially Vaikuntha, we can see this, Shanta and Dasya. These first two rasas, Shanta and Dasya, they are more seen in Vaikunthas, Vaikuntha Loka, many Vaikuntha Lokas. So somebody who has this.
Does Parikshit Maharaj come in passive state?
Parikshit Maharaj is actually, how can I say it? You see, everyone has appreciation to Krishna. But when we see the rasas, they are progressive. When we say progressive, they already have what is there in earlier rasa, along with that something more. Let me explain it, you will appreciate it better. So in passive state, a great appreciation of Lord's glories is there. That is Shanta. He is not engaged in service. In active state, a person knows the glories of Lord, but he desires to please Lord by some service, activity. That's why it's called active state. Like in Dasya Rasa, like very famous example of Dasya is Hanuman. Is it not? He's so much desiring to please Lord, some service I want to please Lord Ram, you know that famous story of Kumkuma, stories are there, like that. That's Dasya. So Dasya state has appreciation plus service. Okay. Now what is next? Sakhya. In Sakhya, what is already there? Appreciation is there. What else is there? Huh? What else is there?
Service is there.
Service is there. Now what comes next is he's intimate, like a friend. No, he wants to serve God as friend. That intimacy comes so dear. In Dasya, like a Hanuman, he's holding hands and he's standing. But like Gopas of Krishna, they sometimes take Krishna so equally. They want to serve Krishna in that attitude of friendship. A friend serves a little more closely. He knows the heart of the person. Like that. Other devotees, please mute. I think someone is mute. And I request co-hosts to please to observe that.
तो वेंडर कॉस्ट क्या मतलब किसका ये वेंडर का कॉस्ट ही मतलब कौन सा?
It would be a disconnect for me in the flow. What were we speaking? I forgot.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, what were we speaking? I forgot.
Third one may be a dream.
We are speaking, Prabhuji.
Sakhya, na? Sakhya.
Yes.
Sakhya. So
Hare
Sakhya
Krishna
has
Prabhuji.
Yes.
Third point, one may be a devotee, a friend. All the Vrajavasis are also concerned of that category, Prabhuji.
All not, see, Vrajavasis are in different rasas, different rasas, devotees, different rasas. Like actually, if you see, the Gopa friends of Krishna, they come in Sakhya rasa. Like in Hastinapur, Arjuna comes in this rasa, friend. In Mathura Dwarka also there are friends like Uddhava. They also have a service attitude like Dasya. But they have more intimate. Actually, it is perfectly presented by the Gopa friends of Krishna, cowherd friends. Now, next one comes Vatsalya. Now, here the intimacy becomes so much that they want to even tell Krishna, they want to protect Krishna, they want to nourish Krishna. And they say, if I don't take care, then, he will, it will not be good. He will starve, like Yashoda Mayasti thinks. So their love is so thick, and their love is so deep. They want to serve Krishna like a parent. Sometimes they even chastise Krishna out of law, and Krishna likes it a lot. That's the Vatsalya. And that intimacy goes to much, much higher perfection in what is called Madhurya. Like the gopis of Vrindavan, the queens of Dwarka, all that. Okay, this rasas you will study in Nectar of Devotion, Mataji, but I'm just mentioning it here because Prabhupada tells the relationship should be, is important. And these 5 are the relationships, the 5 rasas.
Prabhuji,
Okay?
in the parental love, is a friend love will come.
It is also friend. When we say friend, it is intimacy.
Okay.
It's intimacy like an equal relationship. In parent, that is there and it goes ahead. To the extent that even one wants to control Krishna, dictate Krishna, chastise Krishna. That intimacy goes far, far deeper. So that there is increase of intimacy, you see, from friend to parent to lover. Are you getting this? So this is seen in Vrindavan. This is not seen in Vaikuntha. Okay? You will not find someone who is friend to Lord Narayana in Vaikuntha. Someone who is a parent of Lord Narayana in Vaikuntha. We don't hear that.
But
Of course,
Prabhuji,
we
when
have
we do the
Lakshmis.
service, we behave like he is my friend, or he like either the Vatsalya rasa or the Sakhya rasa or the Dasya rasa. We service like that only to Krishna. So like we have that quality, but we are not their friends, right?
Yeah. I was about to say that you made that point. So how do we practice? Can we take Krishna to be, my friend or my son or, my lover? Yeah, that is at perfection.
If you'd like to add here, then you can answer. Prabhuji?
Yeah, please.
So for a sadhaka who moves from a ladder of Shraddha to Prem, the stages are from Shraddha to Prem, do we also move this ladder, Prabhuji, from a passive stage?
I will just mention that. Very good question. I would really appreciate this question actually. See, this actually comes as a study of nectar of devotion. In the beginning, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told that one should understand Krishna is my master. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasava Bhritya. We are his servants. In all rasas, this mood of service is there. The intimacy, the surrender in the service may vary. Okay, like gopis are very surrendered, they are very intimate. So that's depth of service. So in the beginning, especially in what is called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the mood is dasya. Okay, we start there. We develop our appreciation to Krishna and we render service to Krishna. Both are there, you see. So one should render service, one should increase one's appreciation, one should understand more and more about Krishna. Both are going parallel. So start from dasya. That's called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. At least to Guru, one should be obedient and follow the orders of Guru, who is representing Krishna. And from there, we ascend. The next category comes called as Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. If one wants to go to Goloka, I told the 3 higher rasas, no? What are the 3 higher rasas? What are the 3 higher rasas?
Sakya, Vatsalya or Madhurya.
If one wants to attain them, where one should go? Which is the Dhama?
Golok Vrindavan.
Golok Vrindavan, not in Vaikuntha. If one wants to, is aiming for, his prayojana is Goloka, then he should take to the next level of bhakti called as Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. That's also sadhana bhakti, but it's a one step above Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, in which a person, this is a very, I'm saying something which is a higher stage, but please understand with great caution here. It is an advanced stage in which one follows the footsteps of a very perfected devotee, who is a Ragatmika devotee, who is already in those higher rasas. And he has developed that great attraction to Krishna because of practicing dasya, service, all that. He has developed that attraction. He very naturally follows the rules and regulations of Shastra. He has perfectly understood the position of Krishna supremacy. Now he wants to progress in his love to Krishna. So that's where it comes as Raga Anuga. Like we say Rupa Anuga. Today's Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, very special day. Rupa Goswami, he originally is a Manjari. He's in which rasa? He's actually in the highest rasa. Which rasa highest? Originally in spiritual world. He is a Manjari, assistant to gopis, who are actually in Madhurya rasa. So one takes such great souls and follows their path. That's called Raganuga Sadhana. And from there ascends to what is called Bhava Bhakti. And from there, the next stage comes Prema Bhakti. I'm telling broad categories, but this is how one progresses. And one desire. See, this is not something like, X, Y, Z, you progress from one rung to another rung to another. It is also a very careful cultivation. Very careful cultivation. This is more explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I would not like to take up that detailed discussion here because that's a very elaborate. But please understand these stages. Please know them as names. There it will be dealt more in discussion. Okay? Is that clear? I really appreciate the inquiry. Very good. And someone who thought about it shows their attention. Very nice. So now we saw the spirit of Gita. So what is the next part of introduction? What's the next part?
Purpose of Gita.
Purpose of Gita. Very good. So we saw the spirit, the 2 essential spirits. Now the purpose of Gita, which Prabhupada says, 3 purposes he puts up. So he explains one by one. Do not worry, you will not be asked to remember these purposes or something. I've just brought it as a way to show to all of you. So we will see what are these purposes from Prabhupada's words only. Whatever I am trying to show here are exact words of Prabhupada only. So we will see from Prabhupada's introduction, what is the purpose of Gita? So the next paragraph itself says, just what is the Bhagavad Gita? Go to this paragraph. Bhagavad Gita should be taken in spirit of, yes. What is Bhagavad Gita? From here, Prabhupada explains the purpose. Okay, so he says, the purpose of Gita is to deliver the mankind from nescience of material existence. Nescience means ignorance or ajnana, avidya. These are all the equivalents of it. So every man who is in difficulty, as Arjuna fell into difficulty in this Mahabharata conversation, we will see this. So every man falls into difficulty or confusion. No matter how powerful, how capable a person is, he will be put into confusion. Perplexity, that word is used by Prabhupada in the first chapter itself, it comes. So when that happens, like Arjuna, one should take help of a spiritual authority. Like Lord Sri Krishna is the greatest spiritual authority. So one can deliver oneself from this illusion or ignorance or nescience of material existence. That's the purpose of Gita. That's first purpose. So this material existence is temporary, called as asat. One should actually move from asat to sat. That's why you say asatoma sadgamaya. You heard that? In the Vedic terms, it's called mrityorma amritangamaya. So that actually Prabhupada is saying from asat, one should move to sat. From temporary existence, one should move to spiritual existence. That's one purpose of Gita. Prabhupada explains that here. Then he goes on to say that actually we have gotten this human body. We have great capability being in this human body. You all are very intelligent people who are working in a great profession of requiring great intelligence. But Prabhupada says that the greatest use of human birth is when one makes inquiry about God, about something beyond material needs and necessities. So he says this, out of so many human beings who are suffering, I would request a devotee to read. Who is reading? Please read. Out of so many human beings. Please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I will read.
Please read, yeah.
Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position, as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Will I continue, Prabhuji?
Continue.
Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jignasa. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute.
This is so important. Every activity of a human being is to be considered failure unless he inquires about nature of absolute. It's a statement from Bhagavatam. Parabhavastavad abodha jato yavanna jignasata atmatantvam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto, this famous shloka comes. It is considered a parabhav. Parabhav matlab? Parabhav. Failure. Parabhav. Parabhav means he is defeated. Who is defeated? A soul who has taken to human body, he got defeated if he doesn't inquire about that absolute truth. So this human nature, which is to inquire, is perfectly satisfied by Bhagavad Gita. We have that inquiry, which is actually the special ability of human mind that can be perfectly satisfied by Gita. So this is one of the purpose of Gita. For human beings, it is given. Prabhupada used to say, Bhagavad-Gita is for humans, not for cats and dogs. He would say that. So this is second purpose. It satisfies the inquiry of humans. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, he wants to re-establish the purpose of living entity. Like Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. You know, jab dharma ka glani hota hai. Glani matlab, any of you know what is glani?
Patan, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes. Glani, downfall, degradation. Very right. So dharma glani, sometimes we think, oh, the world becomes, you get some pralaya, or people, they become like rakshasas. Actually, when a person forgets the purpose of life, that is glani at an individual level. So Krishna decides to establish that real purpose. Dharma samsthapanarthaya tadatmanam srajamyaham. That famous shloka says it. So Gita was actually spoken to re-establish the real purpose of living entity. So that's the third purpose. So the total three purposes are mentioned. Basically to awaken the spiritual consciousness of the jiva. The first one was to deliver from nescience. Second was to satisfy the inquiries, spirit of humans, the ability of humans. And the third was to re-establish the real purpose of life, to awaken from dharmasya glani. That's the purpose. Is it clear? Hare Krishna. Are we all together?
1 minute, let me note down.
Yes. Okay. So third part, who remembers what's the third part? That was our central discussion earlier. Three things I told you.
Sambandha.
Yeah, this is a broad discussion. I'm just giving you the section titles. So Prabhupada says, the subject of Gita, the essential understanding the Gita tells in 5 truths. You might have heard this, the 5 topics of Gita, sometimes we say. Have you heard this? There are 5 topics which Gita speaks about. Any of you know, please say it for everyone's benefit. Yeah?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Gita talks about Kala, Karma, Prakriti, Jiva, and Bhagavan.
Ishvara, Jiva, Kala, Prakriti, and Karma. So Prabhupada explains them. This is actually told by Baladev Vidyabhushana, the 5 truths. So I am now taking you to the part of introduction which tells about subject of Gita. Are you all having the book and able to follow? I'm showing it one after another. Yeah. Very good. I'm happy. So try to go. I'm trying to show so that you can mark it. So from here starts the Sambandha, the subject of Gita. So Prabhupada discusses subject or Sambandha Jnana in actually three ways. First is by this 5 truths, which is called Ishvara. You can see the slide on the screen. Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. The 5 truths are explained. He also explains Sambandha by consciousness. There is something called contaminated consciousness and pure consciousness. And he also explains the spiritual progression of understanding Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These 3 are put together in Sambandha Jnana. Okay, so we will see them in the introduction. So Prabhupada talks about the 5 truths. Ishvara means what? What's the meaning of Ishvara? Supreme Lord.
15-20 minutes అయిపోతది bro.
Yeah, someone please say again, Hare Krishna. Someone was speaking, I didn't know. Yes.
Ishvara
I
means
said Supreme
owner,
Lord.
Prabhuji.
Supreme Lord, yeah.
Owner.
Actually, owner, yeah. The word actually Ishvara, like you heard earlier, no? In the Ishopanishad also it came. What is that famous word? Isha Vasyam Idam.
Vasyam principle.
Idam Sarvam.
Isha is the root actually. Isha means controller. Isha. Like sometimes Jiva is also called Ishvara. In some of the verses of Gita, you will see Krishna will use Ishvara addressing Arjuna. But actually, Jiva is a very minute Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. Like I can control right now a fan. I can switch on the fan off, switch off. I can control some people, say our children. Very difficult anyways. But we have some domain of control, right? We don't have all control. That is Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Controller, that's the actual meaning of Ishvara. He controls everything. Then comes Jiva. Jiva means all of us, Atmas, who are subordinate, who are actually an Amsha of the Lord. You can see here. There is Ishvara, which means controller, and Jiva, the living entities which are controlled. So Prabhupada explains it so well. So we are controlled. We think that we are free, but actually we are controlled. In all times and situations, we are controlled. Right now, who is controlling us, Prabhuji? We are just sitting and having a free time. No, we are controlled right now by material nature. When we are serving Krishna, we voluntarily accept the control of Guru and Sri Krishna. So we are always under control. The choice is whose control we want to be under. That's the point. So Jiva is controlled, Ishvara is controller. So that's the two tattvas. Then comes Prakriti. Prakriti means material nature. Right now, see, Prakriti could mean many things, even spiritual nature also. But when Gita talks about Prakriti, when you see some of the shlokas telling about Prakriti, like, the famous verse, what is that? Daivihi esha gunamami mai mama maya duratyaya. There Krishna is talking about Prakriti, Maya. Which Prakriti is talking about? The material nature. Bhautika Prakriti. That's the Prakriti of this world. And then there is Kala. Very important. Krishna talks about in the 11th chapter about Kala. Very, very important. How everything is moving. Actually, that Supreme Controller controls this world through Prakriti and Kala. Very, very important. When we say Prakriti, there are three gunas which come under that. That's how material nature functions. Then there is Kala. Then the fifth item is Karma, which is actually activities, Karma. But whose activities here it's talked about? The Jiva's activities. The activities which one performs, he gets a reaction to it. That's also referred by the same word Karma. Karma could mean action. Karma could mean reaction. Karma could also mean system of action and reaction. The very word has multiple meanings. So, like this, the three tattvas are explained in Gita very systematically. Among these 5 tattvas, very interestingly, the 4 of them, the 4 tattvas, that is Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, and Kala, are eternal. They don't get destroyed. They always stay. What is temporary is only the last one. What is that? What is that? Karma. That's how we also hope that we will go back to spiritual world. If karma was eternal, we did not have any hope. Is it not the fact? Ishvara is eternal. Supreme Lord is eternal. Jiva, though he has accepted a material body, he continues to exist even after this body gets destroyed. This is the first teaching of Gita. So Jiva is eternal. Then comes very interesting. Prakriti. Is Prakriti eternal? Is material nature eternal? Any of you want to explain? Is material
It is annihilated, but again, it is again formed.
Again formed. It's annihilated and again formed. Very good. So in that sense, it is eternal. Though it appears, it is manifesting and it is again unmanifest. It's getting destroyed. So that is not temporary. It is eternal. Sometimes we have this. I'm showing you this section. See, what I'm explaining is coming as part of this reading. Probably read this. This is very good at the explanation, prophets. Ishvara.
So Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but is not false. Some philosophers
continue.
Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary.
Have you heard this word? Some people say Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. They say this. Have you heard this? This is one famous philosophy. It's actually Mayavad philosophy. They say spiritual world is the Satya. Everything else is Mithya. Everything else is false. It's illusion. There is no point in worrying much about maintaining this world. It's anyway Mithya. It's illusion. It's not real. But what does Bhagavadgita say? No, it is real, but it is temporary. It is not false. It is coming from the Lord. It is not false. It's not Mithya. When people say this false philosophy, Jagat Mithya, they're actually promoting you can behave any way you want. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's anyway false. They give this example of a dream. This world is like a dream. It's good. There is some good lesson one can derive. But actually, what is the philosophy saying? This world is temporary. Sometimes we compare it. It's like dream. Yeah, dream is temporary. That part of the analogy we take. But dream is false also, no? That we don't accept. Sometimes when we hear in Shastras, we have to carefully understand what is it told, because it will become Mayavad Bhasha. So Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya is a famous aphorism by Shankaracharya. And he propagated it, telling this world is false, it's Mithya, and it doesn't serve any great purpose. What is important is you awaken to the knowledge and you realize that you are God. That's what that strong philosophy says. So, but Bhagavad Gita says the world is not false, it is real, but temporary. And there is a good example, Prabhupada. Read ahead. It is likened
unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which are nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti.
So therefore, Prakriti is eternal. That's the point. Usually we think Prakriti is temporary. Yeah, it is temporary in the sense it manifests, it is created, it is destroyed. Created, destroyed. But that it continues to exist, Prakriti. Now, what is not eternal is to be properly understood. It is karma. Our reactions which we get and which we have to, accept, happiness, distress, which comes as the reactions of our past activities. That is temporary. That's not eternal. The effects of karma could be, risen above from if we take to the right method, like people take to the method of prayashchitta or some jnana, knowledge. But the highest way to rise above karma, to put a full stop to karma, is bhakti. Karmani nirtahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajam. Brahmaji says in that famous prayer, Brahma Samhita. So one takes to the real knowledge which is in Bhagavadgita and takes to bhakti especially, we can put full stop to karma. That way it is not eternal. Out of the 5, only karma is not eternal. All others are eternal. Very important to know. Then there is a relationship which Prabhupada explains between Ishvara and Jiva. Ishvara is controller, Jiva is controlled. The nature of Jiva is to always serve Ishvara. Jiva actually is belonging to spiritual nature, but he has placed himself in material nature. He has actually been in material nature. He can progress or evolve into spiritual nature. So Prakriti, it is inferior energy of the Lord, but when Jiva, he understands himself to be material body, he comes under the control of Prakriti. And that Prakriti functions through modes, gunas, and kala, and the very system of karma. So that's how there is intricate relationship. Prabhupada also explains that this is a continuing topic in Gita, which we will see. I'm sorry for taking time. I'll just end it with one last concept. At least we'll complete the Sambandha aspect. Then there is aspect coming of consciousness. No? I will show you this. Prabhu, can you repeat this part?
The supreme conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the consciousness of the Lord and that of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness may be pervertedly reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be a certain color, but the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected.
So when we talk about consciousness, there is something called contaminated consciousness, which is currently the jivas are having in this world. And from there, one should purify one's consciousness and go back to one's natural state, spiritual consciousness. So Prabhupada explains the Sambandha by consciousness. Actually, the supreme consciousness, that is Supreme Lord. And we are always serving Supreme Lord. That is our eternal consciousness. Jivera Swarupa, that's the word used, Swarupa. So how do we purify one's consciousness? What is that impurity is explained by Prabhupada very nicely in the next part. So he says, what is this consciousness? You see, in that he says here, Gita actually teaches one to purify one's consciousness. That will make us happy. We are materially contaminated, all that. So what is this consciousness? This consciousness is I am, aham, ahamkar, we say, no? So that contaminated consciousness is ahankara. Thinking of myself as this body, and everything that belongs to this body is mine. That is mamakar. Two things. Ahankar, mamakar. I, mine. Aham, mama. What I am, what belongs to me. This is what is the two things. So this is contaminated consciousness. Actually, who I am actually Krishnadas. What is mine? Mine is my service to Krishna. That is mine. My desire to serve Krishna. That is mine. So that's the true consciousness. But contaminated consciousness is to think I am this material body and everything which is connected to this body is mine. Be it things, be it people, be it situations, everything. And that is not really giving one happiness. So Prabhupada says we are not creators, we are not enjoyers, but we are cooperators. Very interesting point it says. He is the one who is creator and enjoyer. We are created and we are subordinate, like a machine cooperates, a part of a machine cooperates with the whole machine, or the limbs of the body cooperate with the, the person or the stomach. Stomach is the real enjoyer, or the plant's parts, they cooperate with the root and they get nourished. So like that, one should serve the root, serve the enjoyer, supreme enjoyer, that is Krishna. The Supreme Lord is the enjoyer. We are meant to cooperate to satisfy him. That will be our satisfaction. You know, Prabhupada very nicely points, if the fingers of the hand think that they themselves can be happy without giving food to stomach, that will be an illusion. That will not serve. So this is the understanding of consciousness Prabhupada points out. I will not take much time. I think it's already late for all of you. Today, what did we discuss? We discussed about, we revised the Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya, Prasthanatraya. And then I told an overview of Gita with an example of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Who remembers that analogy?
That ring in the
Say it again.
in the jewelry box.
Jewel box. Yeah. So what is the central point in that?
There are two comings to that
Bhakti yoga.
gem, and
Yoga and
the
center and
auspicious thing.
So
And the top two layers are the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and the center is the Bhakti.
yeah. So Karma Yoga is actually telling how karma leads to bhakti. That's needed. That's needed. So central point, the central jewel, the central message is in the very middle of Gita. This is told. Then we came to setting the scene. We discussed what is that scene which is set for the speaking of Gita. And then also saw preface, we saw wonderful qualities of Prabhupada, the mood of Prabhupada in it, starting from his wanting to keep that purity of the message, keep it authentic, genuine, and want to, that humility aspect also, he gives credit to his past teachers, acharyas, and he wants to just even make one pure devotee, he considers it success of his mission. Wonderful statement. Then we entered introduction. In introduction, we saw very interesting concept of Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. I think we had a lot of time in that. We understood what does it mean. Then we started studying introduction. We saw two spirits of Gita. Who remembers? Two spirits.
Devotional spirit and submissive spirit.
Devotional and submissive spirit. Then we went into what was that? Purpose of Gita. Then we started understanding Sambandha. So we have covered two aspects of Sambandha, the 5 truths, Ishvara, Jiva,
Prakriti, Kala,
Karma, and Karma. This is a sequence. You should all follow this sequence. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, controlled, Prakriti, the nature, material nature, then Kala, time, last Karma. Karma is the last because it's temporary. Activities, reactions. So that's the only temporary thing, or all others are eternal. Very important. That's the last thing we saw. And consciousness also, we just touched upon it. So we will meet again next session. And then we will continue from there. This introduction will take, it's long actually. It's very difficult to compress it because it's such a wonderful, important part. I request all of you, I'm just showing you the sections. In that sense, I also feel very, very unhappy that I have to rush through. But please take out time, if you can, to read the lines of introduction. Very, very complete presentation. That itself is sufficient. It is so complete. If you just one understands introduction, he understands the whole Gita. In that sense, it is important. So please take that effort if possible. Of course, next session we will complete introduction. We will see the sections and we will even enter first. Okay. Thank you very much for your time and patience. We will meet next session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.